But yeah, thank you guys for your answers. So I'm gonna head into the next question. So historically, the relationship between law enforcement and Black Canadians has always been strained. So with the hyper surveillance of Black youth during school hours and the resurgence of media attention surrounding police brutality in recent years, the distrust seems to be only getting stronger. How can the relationship between Black Canadians, law enforcement, and the justice system be strengthened moving forward? And can this relationship be strengthened despite current levels of distrust? Does anyone would like to start?
Excuse me one second. Is there going to be questions from
Yes,
you?
There will be a designated Q&A.
We're just doing the preview and then we'll open up for questions.
Mind if I go first?
Go.
Okay, so I've got a game plan, and you're gonna get sick of my game plan, but it's the truth. Grow, overcome, achieve. Now I find that if we can actually grow as a community, now I'm talking not just going to school, because many of us are dropping out of school. If you can harness the education system, get into the school board trustees, politics, a lot of us do not vote. You gotta vote because, why? Because politicians need to hear your ear. Develop yourself economically. If you have the money, people will listen. I'm talking about not just working for a job, but you start your own career. Like maybe you are an entrepreneur and you're working for other entrepreneurs. You get into the real estate, you're getting into the finance. You control the money, logistics, and real estate. People are going to listen. And then they'll be forced to actually not have a misconception about you because they're thinking these are the money makers, just the movers and shakers making impact. Maybe I shouldn't maybe pull them over, maybe I shouldn't do whatever, but it comes down to grow, overcome, and achieve, working together, positive mindset. It's going to be hard, but my mother always said to me, yes, you can, and I know you can, right? Just go with that. Work as a team, because through a team, we'll have success, and I don't think we're doing that strong enough. We are, but we can do better. That's what I say.
Well, I think I can just add something to that, both sides, the Black community as well as the police, they have to recognize, they have to recognize the problems between them. The law enforcement, seem to be acting they are not being fair in the way that they profile or they target the Black peoples. Black people know what they are and what they are going through. So if both sides can recognize their problems, then they can come to a common ground, and with their chief of staff or other experts or politicians can work together so that they will find a common ground where they will understand, they will understand each other, find ways to work with respect to each other, rather than, one antagonizing the other and the other one being a victim.
But it's the education, because if we don't understand the history of Blacks in this country, we will never be able to work with Blacks. So when you go all the way back to slavery and colonialization and the kind of descriptions that Blacks were given back then seem to be coming all the way through the generations. So when Libin introduced me, she said that I'm a member of our police services board. She also said I'm a retired nurse. So the last place I worked and managed healthcare was at the Roy McMurtry Youth Center. It is the largest jail for children in Canada, though it is located in Ontario in a little town called Brampton. There's 192 children, I call them, because they're 12 years of age to 17, that are incarcerated there because of crimes they have committed. However, when you look back at their history, some of those crimes are committed from being in poverty, from having mental illness, from being in a place where the white youths were not locked away, but because of the color of their skin and perhaps attitude a bit, they say, come with me and I want to know why. So the justice system will only change when we understand each other and respect each other. on the Police Services Board, I have an opportunity to help to train officers by educating them. So I want you to participate in this little exercise. Just pretend that you don't know much about blacks and they are somehow looked on a negative light. Even when you're so bright, they're stereotyping. So just envision that you're a police officer and you're driving your car north on Young Street. You're driving your police car north on Young Street, and you see what seemed like a 16-year-old male with his cap turned around. He's just walking and looking at the homes, and your first thoughts are what? Why is he not in school, right? Or why is he not at work? And to make it more negative, he's wearing one of those pants that's below his behind and a large shirt, and right away, there's nothing positive. But what are some of the things that could be happening to this young man while he's out there?
He could have dropped out of school.
One, yeah, he could have been suspended. And when some kids are suspended from school, they have really nothing to do, and they go back to school angrier and worse than before the suspension. What else could be happening to this 16-year-old?
He could be having situations at home that could be affecting his school life and not
You
wanting
are
to
so
work.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. And officers don't stop to think about those things. What else?
Oh,
What else could be happening?
Actually, I have one. He could actually be in between a subject, going home for a spare. That is possible,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we don't know that, but you got to educate
Yes.
each other.
What else? Can you think of anything else why you would see like a 16-year-old walking on the street in the morning, just looking around? School is active. Most people are at work unless they're working afternoons and they're resting or shopping. But as was outlined, he could be between classes. He could have situations at home. He could be the eldest in that family that had to take care of all the siblings and send them off to school, and now he's late. And he's thinking, well, I may as well just walk slowly. I don't have money to buy bus ticket. There are students who go to school hungry. There are students in university who sleep on campus because they have nowhere to go. And those could be Caucasians as well as black students. He could have a grandmother or a mother with early onset of Alzheimer's disease that he has to do certain things in the mornings. And yes, he could genuinely be just walking because he is so stressed, mentally unstable, and just don't know what to do. So see how many things could be happening in that young person's life. So what I try to do and educate the officers is say, when you see that person, your first thought should be, what is happening to this young person? Is there any way that I can be of help as an officer, perhaps to direct to doing something positive, or just to find out what is happening, as opposed to the responses I get is, most people are at work in the daytime, so he's casing the area for breaking in later at night. He's very lazy, and so he's just wandering with no ambition. So how can you tell all those things about someone who is just walking? And even ourselves, we have to be really careful how we think of other black young people, because we can be our worst enemies. We can see a black person and right away we form some kind of stereotype, some kind of negative information. So one of the things I'd really like you to take away today is, when you see a young man walking on the street or a young girl, before you start with the negatives, perhaps think of a few things that may be happening in this person's life. And if you're walking on the street and see that person, you may just want to smile, or you say, "How are you doing today?" It's amazing how a smile can impact someone's life, or just to say hi. So that's the way I see the justice system works. I at the Roy McMurtry with young kids, I did education too, because it is a big black chubby guy who is a part of the gang. He is seen by the person who is supposed to help rehabilitate him as nothing. And in fact, he joined the gang because he had no love at home, no money. That gang member says, "You come aboard and be one of us and you can get everything you want." So they go, and then they become killers. And they have no models, no role models, no mentors. So please, instead of thinking negative, and I think that's where our justice system needs to go, is to think something positive about everyone before you start labeling, discriminating, harassing.
So it's like changing your mindset, change your reality.
Yes.
Kind of a thing. That's what I believe. Yeah.
And I think I have one thing to add, because I think this is the main issue for things. Because saying black or white is not racism in itself. Like the issue that we are forming stereotypes because we are learning from media, from newspaper, whenever. So when we say black or even white or even medium, whenever, so the color itself is nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But because we are learning, like through all the phases, that there is something we form, like not by our intention, but because we grow seeing this, for example, or seeing that. This is why you were saying about education. All of you actually mentioned education, because I think it's the main pillar
It is.
for all, like for all things.
Yes.
So to like break this stereotype, like we will not form a negative because we see different color or like white, black, whatever. So
we're all people. I think of a program called Unlearn, and if you haven't heard of Unlearn, maybe you want to tap into it on your computer. So a lab tech comes along and take 3 blood samples, one from you, and they're all different nationalities. And when you put the blood samples out there, they all look the same, unless the person has a disease or something happening. All 3 blood samples are the same. So we're more alike than we are different. Yes.
I want to add some commentary. In addition to your addition, when it came to skin color, I still think that's like a component of racism, and necessarily like colorism is still an issue in the sense of like darker skinned people will always be treated lesser than lighter skinned people.
I feel we are so behind, like when we are discussing this right now. So we are so behind, like there's different issue and more worse, because like for me should be from like history, like discussing history, not discussing this like color or other type. Like we are so behind to see this.
True.
But for sure we need to work forward.
Yeah, we have to make strides in sense of like tackling definitely in terms of tackling anti-black racism, not like only on a base-to-base level, direct level in terms of interactions, but also institutionally, because like we said, there's stereotypes that build from like education and what we learn and etc. And I have some commentary about what you got. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say with her example of the young man or the young woman at a certain time of the when they should be in school or at work. That's where the violence also comes in.
100%.
Because then the police officer may be going with his car and seeing this boy with all those things that you mentioned. Sometimes they just arrest the person. They will stop them and they will arrest that person, because I know a case that has happened. The boy was just on break from college and he went for lunch and was going home so that he can go back. He didn't do anything. He was not even idle. He was just on break, and they arrested him. And when he said, "Well, I'm just going to school, but why are you not in school right now?" They took him to the police station, and his mom had to go and secure bail for him. But when they checked, he was doing nothing wrong. nothing.
Do they
you know.
sue or do they sue?
Well, the mother did later
Good,
on.
good. So you got to get into the
So
organizations
that's where the
first. Yeah.
police don't check, they don't ask questions, they act on what they see. They already say, okay, he's idle because he's up to no good.
True. Well, another thing too, I want to just add quickly is that how you conduct yourself out there, because you're always being watched, be it black, white, whatever the case may be. We all have this kind of vibe we have, and I've encountered with some of our people where we may be a little bit down and depressed, I get it. But if you're coming in there with a low energy, it's like the bully and the student being picked on by the bully, right? If you develop yourself, hold your head up high, you have people around you, there's more confidence, they're not gonna attack you as much. So develop yourself first, because I've seen many people in the community, I'm interviewing them for positions and their energy is so low, I gotta give them like espresso, poke them, say, respond. Then another person comes from another community looking for work, they're more upbeat, they're still economically maybe of a lower level, but it's their mindset. I'm thinking, I will send this person, not the other person, because the other person's just too low and I can't really see them really excelling, even though I'm trying, right?
Sorry, no questions are after, but I'll probably forget everything I'm writing down. So I have to ask now. So I believe that I get what you guys are saying, but a lot of our community, the black community, deals with a lot of trauma,
Yeah.
and trauma that's not dealt with.
It has to be
A
dealt with.
lot of our young boys deal with trauma, and I'm going to share personal experiences in the sense I have 4 nephews, and they've all had an experience with police officers. And one of the things that my mother has said, their grandmother, is, what do you do? My grandmother told them what they have to do. Speak nicely, speak that, you know, and then my mom shared the experience when my uncle first came to Canada and he was carded in the 80s. And in having 4 grandsons, that is still an issue in our family.
Yes.
So for the fact that you knew that your brother never did anything, he was pulled over, brought to the police station, the trauma that's now placed on a family, and now sharing this story with the kids, a lot of kids in our community, thank God for my mom and that she's a positive role model, but the reality is a lot of kids, I work in a youth shelter, a lot of kids do not have those positive role models, and this is the
And
reality.
that's the issue.
Yeah.
So when we tell them to, I think you said, your words that you're using, a lot of kids,
Growing
a lot of kids
overcoming.
don't know how to do that. A lot of youth do not have the skills or the skill sets or even know where to start because they're already dealing with so much trauma.
Yeah.
By the time they're in grade 3, they're hearing all these things that are happening in their community. And I'll be honest, working with the kids and the youth, is that the relationship between police officers, to the point where I had to tell one of my nephews, they're not all bad.
Yeah.
But auntie, they come to our school and they harass us, they ask us what we're doing, all we're doing is sitting like the other cultures. We're just talking with our friends, so why did they come to us first?
That's why I said
So that
economically.
education piece, which you do, which I'm appreciative of that, because the kids, when you have someone coming to you and you're sitting down with your friends just like the other group,
It's scary.
already your perception of police officers, that you're being targeted.
Yeah.
So that anti-racism, it starts at such a young age.
Yeah.
The only thing is that children are not able to label it.
That's why we have to be in the political, the finance stuff. Because when you have the political power, they're going to have to start listening to you. But we don't vote, we don't do a lot of stuff, and that's why. So it's changing your story from victim to victor. Start controlling things economically, politically. Then it will. It's not going to happen overnight, but eventually it will. But you got to be in their face of your counselor, MPP, the police, trustees. Know that your voice matters, and be present. And that's where I find the community needs to be a little bit more stronger. If we do that,
And yeah,
we'll succeed. But it takes time.
it does.
Yeah.
It's also having more professionals that are black.
Yeah.
Yeah.